But what we are seeing, and what I'm sure many of you are feeling, is this growing need and expectations from businesses that they need to get more insight faster and with less effort. And it's important to recognize that this shift isn't just our perspective. It's not an evaluagent term that we've come up with and we're trying to market. It's actually been backed by industry analysts like Gartner as well. And they've been talking a lot about it. There's some more information on the evaluagent blog. Their research shows that the real value of quality assurance comes not just from evaluating performance of reps or agents, but harnessing the voice of the customer and the customer experience insights as well. So what does that actually mean? We can break this down a little bit. So traditionally, where most contact centers have operated is around manually assessing agent performance, reviewing limited samples, which are mostly compliance driven, and creating reports for stakeholders that are mainly around checking boxes. And the big problem here is that you're only getting a tiny glimpse as to what's actually happening in those conversations. It's quite time consuming. It's a big effort and it's often very reactive. And as I said, because you're only seeing about 2 or 3% of the interactions, that means you're missing out on 95% of your customer conversations. And as Gartner points out, it's a very resource heavy approach that's really hard to scale. And when you're only seeing a fraction of what's really happening, it's hard to have a seat at the table and be involved in the strategic decisions that the business is making and contribute your opinion with confidence. Now, what we are seeing in the present is automated QA. And this is where the majority of people are today. They've realized that it's hard to scale your QA efforts and you really need to scale them. So you've moved from a manual approach to using automation to evaluate 100% of the interactions. And that's a huge improvement. But the thing is, even with full coverage, if you're only evaluating the agent performance, you're still not getting the whole picture. You're still only kind of scratching the surface of what your conversations are actually telling you. And what Gartner is predicting is that they see the value of the quality management process is less about simply evaluating the rep's performance, but about 40% of the value comes from understanding the voice of your customer, and 40% of the value comes from understanding the end-to-end customer experience. So collectively, that's about 80% of the insight that you're missing if you're just doing automated QA and if you just focus on agent performance. But by freeing up your time of your team from the kind of more intensive processes of manually evaluating conversations or manually pulling together reports, it's about being able to change that mindset and focus on the future, which is quality intelligence. And this is where we see and industry analysts see the industry heading. And what we're talking about is Gartner predicting that the most effective quality assurance programs will shift their focus from 100% agent evaluations to around 20%, with the rest of the time and resource dedicated to collecting and acting on voice of the customer and customer experience data. And as I said, because if you're only evaluating what's happening, you're missing out on understanding the impact of the processes, the policies, the end-to-end customer journey, and most importantly, why it's happening and how to prevent the issues from occurring in the first place. So what quality intelligence, the term, is all about is about really trying to create that nerve center of insight, one where quality assurance, voice of the customer, and customer experience all sits together to give you a complete end-to-end view of your customer experience from the perspective of your business, how you're meeting your internal expectations of what good looks like, and also from your customers' expectations, are you meeting their definition of what great looks like. Now, obviously that's quite a big shift from traditional QA to quality intelligence, and what we see is a changing future of the role of QA, and it will mean a different shift for your organization. In the current state, QA is often seen as a tick box exercise where the focus is mostly on checking compliance and evaluating reps' performance across a small sample of interactions. In the future, we see insights from 100% of interactions being used, focused not just on the agent's performance, but also customer outcomes, and moving from compliance to continuous improvement. Secondly, from a team structure perspective, we actually see this changing the role of the QA team a little bit more as well. What we're starting to see is teams that have traditionally been siloed with separate functions of QA and voice of the customer are now coming together. So we're starting to see more cross-functional teams that are involving QA, CX, voice of the customer, and AI specialists, with collaboration being the key to enhancing that continuous improvement. The value of the organization of the function is also changing significantly as well. In a traditional sense, many saw the value of QA being around compliance and making sure that the expectations were met. Now, QA teams utilizing automated quality management and increasingly taking a mindset of quality intelligence are being seen by businesses as a real strategic asset, driving improvement across the processes, the people, and the policies that contribute towards that great customer experience. And I've said it a number of times, that mindset is possibly the biggest shift that we're seeing, and possibly the biggest thing that's coming in the future. That kind of mindset of QA being seen as a tick box exercise and being reactive and compliance focused, to a world whereby QA is really seen as an act of continuous improvement, focused on ensuring that we're delivering great outcomes for customers and we're making some real great business decisions.